U.S. President Barack Obama announced that he will travel to Cuba at the end of March to meet Cuban President Raul Castro. It's the first for a sitting president in nearly 90 years. For more, we are joined by U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher. The last time a sitting U.S. president visited Cuba, it was Calvin Coolidge in 1928 in a battleship. Kate, Obama's visit will likely be a very different kind of visit.
Absolutely, and that is what the message the White House is giving us today. This is going to be a very different visit from those previously. Barack Obama is heading to Cuba to try to start a new dawn of relations between the United States and the island country just 90 miles south of the United States, the tip of the state of Florida. He said in a tweet this morning that he was going to advance the progress and efforts to improve the lives of the Cuban people. But he made it clear that he still had huge differences with the Cuban government that he would raise directly with them, saying that America stands for human rights across the world. So although this is seen, he sees this as a very positive part of his foreign policy. He came to office with the idea that he'd want to try to ease hostilities with former foes. We've seen that with his deal with Iran, and now this attempt to normalize relations with Cuba as well. So this is a key part of his foreign policy. It's his final year in office, and this visit is all part of trying to really make an historic change in the relationship between the United States and Cuba. He'll be heading there on the 21st and 22nd of March with his wife.
Now, Obama's administration formally reopened ties with Havana in late 2014. What's the progress been like in terms of normalizing relations?
That's right. It's just over 14 months ago that announcement was made. And since then, the White House would say a lot of progress has been made. Indeed, there are now embassies open in both Washington and Havana, with each other's flags flying above the roofs there, which is a huge step forward. And on Tuesday, just gone, the two countries signed a deal to start commercial air flights between the two countries, which again is a huge step forward, and that is likely to happen, we understand, by the end of this year, which will mean that thousands of Cuban Americans who haven't been able to go back to Cuba to visit family will be able to do so. So that's a huge advance. But the one big sticky, and obviously this meeting, Obama, the US president, actually visiting the island and meeting Raul Castro will be a huge step forward. But the big thing that still remains is the trade embargo between the two countries. President Obama has made it clear that he wants to see that lifted as soon as possible. He believes it doesn't work. It hasn't worked since it's been in place, and it hasn't served either country well. It hasn't made any difference to the way that Cuba behaves. However, there's huge opposition here in the US from the Republican Party, who control the US Congress, and from some Democrats as well. And as try as he might, he simply hasn't been able to get Congress to shift that trade embargo, and it is a decision that has to be made by them and go through a legislative process in the US Congress.
Kate, as you said, a lot of opposition by U.S. lawmakers to this visit, saying that Obama should perhaps be pushing for a free Cuba. I'm wondering about the reception of this announcement on the ground. What are American people saying about this?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of opposition from Republicans in particular. There are two Republican presidential candidates who are actually the sons of Cuban migrants, Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Marco Rubio. Ted Cruz of Texas, Marco Rubio of Florida. Their parents Cuban migrants, and they are hugely opposed to this visit. They've both been clear about that, saying it is a mistake. Marco Rubio saying in an interview last night that he would not visit Cuba unless it was a free Cuba. He believes that Mr. Obama is being an apologist and showing weakness and appeasement to America's enemies. And he said he would not be accompanying Mr. Obama on this visit, so he very strongly disagrees with it. And those views reflect many Republican views as well. Of course, there are many people in this country who welcome it as well, but certainly all the big media attention is going to these presidential candidates at the moment, particularly those with family links to Cuba. And yes, there is strong opposition from those Republican presidential candidates.
Kate, this visit getting lots of media time because of the historic nature of it. Potentially, how could this change the lives of ordinary Cuban people?
Well, it would be, for them, an opportunity for more direct access to the United States. So that means not just the ability to travel there and visit friends and family, but also commercially. This would perhaps give them more access to opening up business opportunities and really kind of getting their economy off the ground. Certainly, President Obama, certainly the White House has said that this visit means that the US is committed to a new course in US-Cuba relations, meaning opening up travel, commerce and access to information. And that really is where the ordinary Cubans will find some advantages, because at the moment they have very little ability to trade or to start off commercial enterprises with the United States, which is geographically so close to them. President Obama and the White House in their statement said that although, yes, he will be meeting with Raul Castro, the Cuban president, he will also be meeting with entrepreneurs, members of civil society, and I quote, Cubans from all walks of life. So it's clearly their intention that this is not just a political visit, but a visit to try to incorporate all of Cuban society.
That was our correspondent in Washington, Kate Fisher, talking to us about that historic visit announced by US President Barack Obama. He will be heading to Cuba in March. The last time a US sitting head of state was in Cuba was in 1928.